All right, hey everyone, welcome into another episode of the Sleeping with the Numbers podcast. Yes, I know. Thank you. Great to be here. Great to be here. Yeah, we're a live studio audience today. Just me, Pat. Thank you. All right, stop clapping. All right, cut it out. Just Dylan today. Pat is out for the week, but he has his picks in, and we are going to go over them. Like I said, live studio audience today, so gotta do it right. It's going to be completely live, no editing done at all. So wanted to kick off with, we usually do a quick question, but instead of that, I'm gonna build a cash lineup for this week. If you are listening to the podcast somewhere, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and you want to visualize what I'm doing here on DraftKings, go ahead and check it out on our YouTube, and you can watch me actually build the lineup. Otherwise, I'll just announce who I'm picking here, and hopefully that gives you enough insight here. So this is going to be for the NFL Giant $25 double up single entry on DraftKings. So this is a cash lineup. Now, the last video I did, we did a GPP lineup, tournament based. We really focused on ownership projections, that type of stuff. Cash lineup, you don't really care about that. You just want to build the best team possible and get into that top. It's not exactly 50%, but pretty close to top 50%. So let's go ahead and build one. With this week, it's a weird one. We got 6 teams on bye, so the slate is, the pool is a bit smaller here. So smaller pool, everything's going to be chalky. It's going to be, again, very likely people are taking the same players here. But again, it is cash lineup. We aren't terribly worried about that. But the game I want to focus on is the Buffalo Bills game. You can see this massive price gap between Josh Allen and the next highest priced quarterback, which is Kyler Murray. Josh Allen is at $8,500, Kyler at $7,400. Now, in tournament, I'm really not playing Josh Allen. He is likely to be the highest owned quarterback, I would imagine. He usually is. And when I play tournament style games, I don't want to get really anything chalky, but here's Josh Allen. He costs $8,500, and I'm going to hit my new button here. Check this out. Yeah, that's the money button. That's pretty cool. All right, so Josh Allen here, highest price quarterback of the week, $8,500. Cash lineup, I don't care. I'm throwing him in here for this lineup. And the same thing does apply here for some of the GPP rules, like stacking players. We still want to do that. So with Josh Allen, originally, so I did pre-make this lineup just because it takes me a while to make a single lineup, and I don't have that much time. This is going to be a full show here. So I did pre-make this one, and I was trying to fit in Allen and Diggs, and it just was not working. It was not happening. Diggs is pretty pricey. He's at $8,400. I could not make him fit and get a lineup that I liked. So what I did instead was I stacked him with Gabe Davis. So Gabe Davis, $6,900, much cheaper than Stephon Diggs, $1,500 less, but I still get that stack with Josh Allen. Now, yeah, Gabe Davis is a little more hit and miss than Stephon Diggs, but that's where we're getting a little bit different than the field. And again, I'm not too worried about ownership percentage here, but if you can make just a slight adjustment to be a little different than the field, gives us a little bit of an advantage, unless Gabe, of course, just does absolutely nothing. So that's where my stack is going to be. For my running backs, I went for really likely the most chalky guys on the slate here. Number one being Travis Etienne. He's just very cheap for the workload he's getting and the points he has been putting up. He's also playing against a really bad Las Vegas Raiders defense. So he's going to get the ball a ton, and he's going to be able to put up those points. If we just look at what he's done in the past few games, last week, 156 yards on 24 attempts. The week before that, 114 yards on 14 attempts. A touchdown in both of those games. Not a ton of pass work, which, is nice to have in DraftKings because it is full point PPR. But until ETN's price is out of reach, I'm going to keep playing him, especially in these cash lineups. So 6,300, that's good enough for me for Travis Etienne. I'm also going to put in Joe Mixon at $6,500. Now, Mixon, I have him on a fantasy team, and quite honestly, I'm disappointed. You don't exactly get what you want out of him. He's getting the work. It just doesn't seem like the points are matching up with him. So if, the last 3 weeks, he's actually kind of down in rushing attempts. That likely because Jamar is out. Well, actually, that doesn't make a ton of sense because Atlanta. Did Jamar go out during Atlanta? I don't remember. Either way, last week, Cleveland, he only had 8 attempts for 27 yards. That was awful. However, he was getting a ton of check down work. So he got 9 targets, caught 7 of them, but for only 32 yards. So for those like expected fantasy points, he is well below what he is expected. His price also keeps going down. And again, we are on a smaller player pool this week because of the bye weeks. So throwing him in there is a risk I am willing to take. And if we go to, Pro Football Focus does expected fantasy points. There we go. And we look at, let's do it for DraftKings, and we want to see filter for rushing and receiving. So the expected points per game for Joe Mixon is the 6th highest. He's expected to be getting 19.9 points per game. And he is not getting that. He's getting 14.6 points per game, a differential of 5.4 points. So what does that really tell us? Well, that means, according to math, now again, sometimes you can't just trust that, but according to math, he should return to the mean. So return to his average points per game, his expected points per game, because based on the work he is getting, he should be getting more fantasy points. So really what I use this tool for is to find undervalued players and then go try to trade for them. So, if we sort, going to get a little off track here. If we sort for players based on their expected points per game, and we find those who are in the negative. So I don't know who Desmond Patman is, but we're going to ignore him. Number 2, Deontay Johnson. So this hits home pretty good. He is 5.8 points under his expectation per game. Now, again, what does that mean? He's getting the work. They're just not performing because the Steelers have been dog shit. But now without Chase, it's really Deontay and Pickens. I think I would prefer to have Pickens, quite honestly, but you can get Deontay pretty cheap right now. And, who knows? Maybe he bounces back. He's already getting a lot of targets, but no more Chase. That just means more targets for him and hopefully more targets for Najee. But third, Joe Mixon, like I said, I would go try to trade for Joe Mixon at this moment just because he is not putting up the points he is expected to. A lot of these other guys are just outliers because they don't get a ton of work. So we can just ignore them. All right, going back to the DraftKings lineup. Josh Allen and Gabe Davis for my stack. ETN Mixon in for my running backs. So let's fill the rest of this out. For my next wide receiver, I went with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Where's he at? He is only $6,600. He's against Green Bay. They are underdogs in this matchup. So what does that mean? You expect them to be behind. You expect them to have to throw the ball. They're at home. That's a nice bump. They just got rid of TJ Hawkinson. It's St. Brown, nobody to throw the ball to. Yes, with Jamal, they're going to get their work. But in terms of the receiving game, it is going to be St. Brown. I think Chark is still injured. Let's see here. Chark is on IR. Josh Reynolds is doubtful. And the rookie is still out, Jameson Williams. So it's St. Brown and Khalif Raymond. Give me St. Brown. He's going to get 10 plus targets in this matchup is going to be my guess. So I want him here. and at a pretty decent value, 6,600, I think. Next wide receiver, I am going to the Washington Minnesota matchup. I expect this to kind of be back and forth, kind of similar thing to Green Bay Detroit, where Washington is going to have to play keep up because Minnesota is going to put up some points on them. So I am taking Terry McLaurin at just $5,900. Terry and Heineke, they have a connection. Heineke has been chucking on the balls, 8 targets in the past 2 games, 73 yards, 113 yards, and a touchdown 2 weeks ago against Green Bay. And his price is what it was 2 weeks ago. You really cannot complain about that. Washington, not a great team, but we're not betting on them to win. We're betting on them to put up some fantasy points here. All right, so that fills up my wide receivers. Tight end, I went cheap in this route, so I was able to spend up elsewhere, mostly on Josh Allen. But for tight end, I went with Cade Otton. I don't have a ton to say about him. Really, I was just trying to price down. I originally had, what the hell's his name? Will Disley in there. I believe he's at 3K. Yes. And then I ended up with some extra money, so I bumped it up to Cade Otton. Was that a better move? I don't know. I don't think it matters enough for me to go back. But he's at least getting some targets in these matchups. 5 targets in the past 2 games, 3 in the week just before that. He's cheap, $3,100. I spoiler alert, I have this as a low scoring game between Tampa Bay and the Rams. They both have just looked terrible. But again, this is really just about price at this point. And same thing with these next 2 picks. So in my flex, I am going to the well with Terrence Marshall Jr. Just $3,900. And if you don't know who that is, he is a wide receiver for Carolina. They shipped off Robbie Anderson. Well, he kind of shipped himself off, but either way, Marshall Jr. is now basically the number 2 receiver. They don't have Christian McCaffrey, so he's not eating up a bunch of that. But if we check out his game log, last week he got 9 targets. The week before that, only 3. But he's getting worked more into the lineup. 87 yards last week, no touchdowns, but he's kind of a long bomb guy. Expect Carolina to be behind in this game and have to throw. I did have DJ Moore in this lineup at first, but I like some other guys here better, like St. Brown, so I went with him instead. But Terrence Marshall is going to be another cheap pick here. And then finally, for my defense, I am also going with the Carolina Panthers. They are the second cheapest. Ooh. I should not go with the Carolina Panthers because I am playing Joe Mixon. That's embarrassing. All right, let's fix that. So, wow, that's okay. So you don't want to play any players against your own defense. Why? It limits your ceiling. So I don't want to do that. I can't play the Jets because I have the Buffalo stack. I could play the Commanders at 2,400. Again, I'm just trying to get weird here with these lineups. I think I like the Seahawks a bit better. So I'm going to throw them in here. All right, so now I got to find $200. Where am I going to find $200? I could drop down Cade Otton. That won't impact me too much. I'm going to sneeze here. Fuck me. All right. Drop $200. Noah Fant. Perfect. Again, I am not concerned about the tight end position at all. All I'm trying to do is spend down here. And I fixed that problem where I was capping my ceiling by playing the Carolina defense against Joe Mixon. If Mixon were to score, the Carolina's defense points were going to go down. We ain't playing that. So fix that. My bad. So here's my lineup. Josh Allen, Travis Etienne, Joe Mixon, Gabe Davis for the stack with Josh Allen, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Terry McLaurin, Noah Fant, Terrence Marshall Jr., and the Seattle Seahawks defense. So I'm going to lock that in here, update my entry. And we will move on to the main event after these messages. And I got a fancy button. Maybe this one's cooler. I don't know. Listen to this ad. All right, we are back, and we are going to go through all of these matchups myself. Pat sent me his picks, and then we also have the machine learning model's picks. So talking about the machine learning model first, this was the first down week of the model. The model ended up losing. They went 9-6 on the money line, so just a 60% hit rate, and then 6-9 on the spread. So that's the first down week for the model. So if we look at how much that was, they lost. They went 10-15 on the actual bets, only hit on 40% of them with a negative 27.8% ROI. However, for the year, we are still up 9.83%. So can't complain. Everyone has their down week, including computers. So this week we will have the models picks again, just to give an update on what the models picks were for Thursday night's game. Philly against the Eagles, they hit both of them. They had Philly winning and Houston to cover the spread. That just barely happened. But they had Philadelphia winning by 8.53 points, which was enough for Houston to cover. So heading into this week, we are going to kick it off with the Los Angeles Chargers against the Atlanta Falcons. Chargers 4-3, just coming off the bye week. Falcons at 4-4. Chargers banged up in the receiving line. Mike Williams has him listed as out. Keenan Allen out. Man, so it's going to be Palmer starting off here. Eckler showed up on the injury report yesterday with a torso injury or abdomen injury. It's part of the torso, right? But he had an injury. He is off that now. He is fine. He will be playing, and you best believe he's going to get a lot of work in this matchup. That being said, the Chargers are 3-point away favorites, minus 159 on the money line, plus 134 for the Falcons, an over-under of 49.5 points, which seems really high, especially with a lot of these players out for the Chargers. That's really the only thing that it impacts for me is just how many points are going to be scored. I don't have faith in Atlanta at all, which is why I'm taking Chargers to win, Chargers to cover, and I will be taking the under 49.5 points. Pat, oh boy, he's going complete opposite. I'm going to hit a button here. Yeah, it's like a shark button. I don't. That's evil sounding. How do I make that thing louder? That was really quiet. Whatever, doesn't matter. He's taking Atlanta to win, cover, and the over. The model will be taking. Where is Chargers? Model is taking the Chargers to win, but Atlanta to cover the 3 points. They only have the Chargers winning by 0.81 points, which obviously isn't a thing. Next matchup here, the Miami Dolphins taking on the Chicago Bears, who have looked somewhat decent over the past couple weeks. But it's still Justin Fields, and I don't have any faith in here. Dolphins, 4-point away favorites, minus 199 on the money line, plus 166 for the Bears, over-under of 45.5 points. With pretty much every Bears game, I'm betting the under. I know they have been able to kind of put it up a little bit. And the Miami's defense isn't great. I don't care. I just do not have a ton of faith in them hitting that. So Pat and I are both going Miami to win and cover. However, I'm taking the under. He is taking the over. The model will be taking the... Where the hell is Miami? Miami. This is the first one. Okay. Model is taking the Bears to win and cover. So interesting there. See how that goes for the model. They're going for the money. I love this little thing. I got a Stream Deck, so now I got buttons to push. Makes me happy. 2-6 Carolina Panthers taking on the 4-4 Cincinnati Bengals, and Bengals still 7.5-point home favorites. I guess it's at 7 now. It's a 7.5 up here, but 7-point home favorites minus 335 on the money line. Please don't take that bet. Plus 263 for Carolina, a very low over under of just 42.5 points. I expect this to be a pretty run-heavy game. I talked about Terrence Marshall, and they're going to have to throw the ball. I think DJ Moore will also be a decent play here. But both of these teams want to run the ball, especially with Joe Mixon and with Jamar Chase being out. Deonta Foreman has looked good. So neither one of these teams have been super impressive. So I'm a little surprised that the Bengals are so heavily favored. I think you just kind of see the name and are like, oh yeah, Bengals are going to whoop the shit out of them. I'm not completely convinced there. So I'm taking Cincinnati to win, but Carolina to cover the plus 7 points. I think it's going to be a lot closer of a game than a lot of people expect. I did originally have the under, but I think I did that when it was a little bit higher. So let's see what that was initially. Yeah, I think I took it when it was at like 44 and a half, something like that. I looked at it very early, but that's coming down to now 42 and a half. So I am going to switch my pick to the over. Pat is taking Cincinnati to win and cover, and he is also taking the over. The model is going to be taking Cincinnati to win, but the Panthers to cover. They got the Panthers in at 7.5. So they get that little help with that extra half a point. Divisional matchup, the 3-5. Yikes. The 3-5 Green Bay Packers taking on the 1-6 Lions. The Lions are home, and they are just 3.5-point underdogs, which is... it's hard to say it's disrespectful to Green Bay, but Green Bay has not looked good. So you can't even really call it disrespectful here. So minus 189 for the Packers, plus 157 on the money line for the Lions. Pretty high over under of 49.5 points. And usually these divisional matchups, I think are going to be a lot closer. However, that is a very, very high point to hit. I don't think Green Bay really has the weapons. I don't think the Lions really have the weapons either. Swift is still working his way back in. If we look at some of the injuries, Cobb's still out. Lazard is questionable. So Rodgers is going to be relying on his rookies again. And Dobbs hasn't looked great, dropping balls. So a little worrisome there. Lions side of the ball. Like I said, Swift is still coming back into the mix. Josh Reynolds is doubtful. We talked about it during the lineup creation for DraftKings. It's St. Brown and nobody. Once they get to the 5-yard line, it's going to be Jamal Williams. But I don't know how these teams are going to score. Either way, I'm taking Green Bay to win, Green Bay to cover, and the under. Pat doing the exact same. The model is taking... Wow, okay. Model taking the underdogs, Detroit, to win and cover. I hope it's right. I like to say that the computers and the math, smarter than us, but I'm not so sure about that one. 3-4-1 Colts taking on the 4-4 New England Patriots. Both of these teams look bad. I'm just going to quickly run through this one. The Patriots 5.5-point home favorites, minus 238 on the money line, plus 193 for the Colts, over under of just 40. We talked about it last week. Anytime the over under is at 40 or less, the over hits I think it was 80 or 90% of the time. So I'm taking that over. Even though this is going to be a very, very gross matchup. Sam Mellinger still going to be under center here. He looked okay. Mac Jones coming back. He has not looked okay. He might be sat for Zappy again, whatever the hell his name is. I'm taking New England to win. Colts to cover. 5.5 points seems like a lot in a low projected scoring game. Pat's taking New England to both win and cover. The model taking New England to win and cover. Divisional matchup, 6-1 Bills against the 5-3 Jets. Good for you, Jets. The Bills are 11.5 point away favorites. Minus 580 on the money line. Do not take that bet. And an over-under of just 46 points. Which seems low to me. 46 points. I think the Bills alone can put up 30. That's very possible. And the Jets have not looked terrible. If we go and we look at their past games, 16 points, 27 points, 40 points, 24 points, they can do it. This seems like a very low over-under. Yes, Bills' defense is fantastic. But they don't have to put up that much if the Bills are going to be the one putting, up close to 30, 27 points, 24 points, 38, 23. It can be done. It can be done. So I'm going to be taking Buffalo to win, Jets to cover. I think the 11.5 points is a decent haul to give. I won't be surprised if the Bills cover that. But these divisional matchups, we talked about it, they know each other very well. These games can end up being a bit closer than expected. And games in general can end up being closer than you expected. I mean, Houston was winning for a little bit against the Eagles, which was the weirdest thing to see. But anything's possible in the NFL. Pat taking Buffalo to win and cover, and he will be taking the under. The model taking Buffalo to win, and the Jets to cover the 11.5 point spread. 6-1 Minnesota Vikings traveling to Washington to take on the 4-4 Commanders. Vikings still being disrespected. I can say this one about the Vikings. They are being disrespected. Just 3 points against the Washington Commanders. Absurd. But as bettors, we love to see it. That's an easy one for me. So -3 for the away Vikings. -166 on the money line. I'll even take that money line at those odds. And a low over-under of just 43.5 points. I think this can turn into somewhat of a shootout. You look at these weapons. Vikings just got a brand new weapon with Hawkinson. I don't know how much he's going to play, but he's still a very good weapon to have in a pass-heavy offense. So this one's easy for me. I'm taking Vikings to win and cover. Pat is doing the same, but we differ on the over-under. That seems to be the trend with Pat and I. And actually, let me read off how last week went, because that's where the big difference was. For the money line, I went 10-4. Pat went 7-7. For the spread, I went I lost it. 9-5. Pat went 7-7 there. Wait a minute. I'm reading the wrong one. My bad. Week 8. This is why we don't do live shows. Week 8. I went 8-7. Pat went 9-5. For the spread, I went 7-7. Pat went 7-6. He missed the Thursday night game, so that's why the totals are a little different there. And this is where I just got demolished. I went 5-10 on the over/under. Pat went 8-6. So he brought it up last week where he's like, "We're going to be so different. Someone's going to do really well and someone's going to do really bad." It was me. I did really bad, and Pat was money. Still, for the season, we're doing decently well. So for the season, I'm at 59.35% on the money line. Pat, 55.83. On the spread, I'm 51.64. Pat is 50.43. For the over/under, this is where I'm the best at, but just had a really bad week. I'm 56.1%. Pat at 48.33. So if you're tailing those, depending on the odds, you should be making at least some money there. Now, again, do not tail every one of our picks. That's not how you should be betting. You need to adjust, look at what you think the probability is of a team winning, convert those to odds, or even do it in reverse. You take the odds, convert it to implied probability, and then compare it to what you think, and then bet that way. Do not just bet on every single game, every single possible bet. You'll almost always lose that way. You're pretty much guaranteed to lose if you bet every single game. You should not do that. Pick and choose your games. That is what we do. We just give our picks. If we're forced to pick a game, if we're forced to bet on one of these, this is who we're picking. But please note that we are not actually betting on all of these. If you want to see what we're actually betting on, you can go and check us out on Action Network. I am Fantasy, Pyantasy. Pat is Patrick Fox, and the model is SWTN_model. Now, the model is the only one that bets on every single one of its picks. I do those bets for it, but I do tail it completely. Is that the right move? Sometimes. But another thing to note there is it does not take any money line odds greater than, well, technically less than minus 200. So any of the the Bills last matchup, or they were like minus 500 or some shit like that. We're not taking those bets ever. So again, follow the real bets on Action Network. Links are going to be in the description for both the podcast and on YouTube. To recap that, both Pat and I, Minnesota to win and cover. I'm taking the over. Pat's taking the under. The model is taking Minnesota to win and cover. So all three of us lined up there. Gross matchup here, but actually probably pretty decent for fantasy. The 2-5 Raiders take on the 2-6 Jaguars. The Raiders are just minus 2-point away favorites. They looked like trash last week. Devontae Adams was apparently sick, and that just completely destroyed that team. So minus 134 in the money line, plus 113 for the Jags. Over under of 48 points. And like I said, neither of these teams are really great. And when two bad teams play against each other, somehow it always turns into a shootout. And I think the Raiders want to get back on track. Devontae Adams, obviously an emotional person, because when he gets upset, he attacks cameramen. But I think the Raiders can come back and win this one. Only 2-point favorite, so I'm going to take them to win and cover, and I'm going to go the over 48 points. Pat, complete opposite. He is taking Jacksonville to win and cover, and he is taking the under. The model, Vegas to win, Vegas to cover. Divisional matchup, I called this one to be a very high-scoring game the last time they matched up, and that did not happen. It was a dud. It was a 19-9 game. That sucked. Hopefully they can fix this up this time. DeAndre Hopkins is back, and he is ready to throw hands. Arizona Cardinals, 2-point home favorites, minus 127 on the money line, plus 107 for the Seattle Seahawks. Over-under of 49 points. And like I said, I am hoping this is going to end up being the shootout we want it to be. I'm not convinced it will be. So I'm taking the under here. I'm taking Arizona to win and cover. Pat also taking the under, but he is taking Seattle to win and cover. The model is taking, all right, model. I just created you, whatever. You can side with Pat if you want. Model taking Seattle to win and cover. You're going to get unplugged. Last year, this would have been such a fun matchup to watch. This year, not so much. The 3-4 Rams taking on the 3-5 Buccaneers. The Buccaneers just 3-point home favorites, minus 151 on the money line, plus 128 for the Rams. A very low over-under of 42.5 points. And I agree. I'm taking the under here. I know, Pro Football Focus isn't like that. It thinks there's the edge towards the over. I'm going to disagree with them because they have such a hard time scoring, these teams. Who's the Rams going to give the ball to? Cup. We know that. Everyone knows that. That means Tampa Bay knows that. Tampa Bay at least has some more weapons, which is why I'm going to take them to win and cover. But man, neither one of these teams have looked great. Let's take a look at what they've been scoring. The Rams, let's do the last 5 games. 14, 10. I'm sorry, 14, 24, 10, 9, 20. Nothing crazy. Bucks, 22, 3, 18, and then 21 against the Falcons. Taking Tampa to win, cover, and the under. Pat, same thing. Model, Tampa Bay to win and cover. Sunday night football. 5-2 Tennessee Titans. Very quietly 5-2. It doesn't feel like they are 5-2 Titans taking on 5-2 Chiefs. Even though they are at the same record, Kansas City heavily favored in this matchup. Likely because, right here, Malik is going to get another start. It is sounding like Tannehill is questionable for this matchup. 12.5 point favorites for Kansas City. Minus 591 on the money line. Do not take that bet. Plus 433 on the money line for the Titans. Over under of 45.5. Kind of expected it to be a bit more, but again, that is likely due to the fault of Malik. Oh boy, Kansas City should handle this pretty easily. They're the healthier team. They're the better team. Tennessee, they're going to have to give Henry the ball 30 times. That is their best chance at winning this game. They have nobody to throw the ball to. Robert Woods hasn't done dick. Oh, wait, hold on. Maybe I can. Robert Woods hasn't done. Yeah. I hope that worked. If it didn't work, there was a bleep there. Oh, boy. Yep, so they just need to give Henry the ball over and over. That's all they can do. Man, when did I take this over under? Because I feel like I want to take the over now because it has shrunk. I took it. I think I took it at 47.5. No, that can't be right. That would have meant I took it way back there. Okay. No, I'll stick with it because I don't really know how Tennessee's scoring other than Derrick Henry, but Kansas City will win. 12.5 points is a lot. I think Mike Vrabel's a good enough coach to kind of at least cover that here. So I'm taking Kansas City to win, Tennessee to cover. Pat is also doing that. But again, we are at odds here. I'm taking the under, Pat taking the over. It's going to be the same thing like it was last week. Someone's going to be really right. Someone's going to be really wrong. The model, Kansas City to both win and cover. That does feel like a better bet, but that's okay. I'm sticking to my guts. Pat and I, same page here. Let's go for it. And finally, Monday Night Football. 5-3, Baltimore Ravens taking on the 3-5 New Orleans Saints. Ravens only 2-point away favorites, minus 129 on the money line, plus 108 for the Saints. Over under of 47 points. This opened decently high at 3.5. You know what? No, 3.5. That still feels low. I don't. Maybe I'm just getting caught up in the names with the Ravens and thinking they're better than they are. Andrews, doubtful. Gus Edwards, doubtful. Kenyon Drake's going to get the start here. Yikes. Michael Thomas on IR. He's a bum. Landry, questionable. Ingram, out. Lattimore, questionable. This is nuts. So it is going to come down to the run games, I think, of both teams. Baltimore with Lamar, he's the number one running back. Drake, a little bit less. And then for the Saints, Alvin Kamara. Kamara has to show up this game. If Kamara doesn't get 2 touchdowns, they're blown out of the water, I expect. Kamara can get 2 touchdowns. It's going to be decently close. But I think this game is going to be back and forth. Baltimore Ravens defense is already known to be poo-poo. Saints without Lattimore, not that they really need him because, I mean, he's not stopping to run. And that's all Baltimore is going to be doing here because there's no one to throw the ball to. Maybe Rashard Bateman gets some work. I really don't know. But I think this can be a back and forth game just because I feel like the defenses are weak. The ability of Lamar, the ability of Kamara is what is going to shape this game. If they're able to do what they're expected to do, this is going to be a high-scoring affair, and that's exactly what I expect. So I'm taking Baltimore to win and cover, and the over. Pat riding strong with me, doing the same exact thing for all three. However, we are fighting the machine that is the model. Model has New Orleans beating the shit out of Baltimore. So Saints to win and cover, but just to kind of like give a little insight on what the model's actually showing me here, they give me an expected score for each team, and they have New Orleans winning by 8.8 points. That seems nuts to me, but I mean, all they know is the statistics of previous games. They don't know about any injuries. So, man, maybe that's where they're getting that, but just a little hint there. You know, if you are planning on tailing the model, that's a little insight into it. And I personally would be a bit a bit worried to tail that bet. Not that it can't be done, but the model really thinks New Orleans is going to whoop the hell out of Baltimore, and I don't believe that at all. But that'll do it. That is all of the matchups here. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Sleeping with the Numbers. Check us out really anywhere you can listen to podcasts. You know, give us a subscribe on there. Give us a rating. We appreciate it. Follow us on Anchor for our actual bets. I talked about it a little earlier. You can follow me at Fantasy PYANTASY and Pat at Patrick Fox. The model at SWTN_models. And that will be all on Action Network. If you want to do some prop betting, Monkey Knife Fight's an easy way to do it. Check out our link below and get your first $100 for new members. Match instantly. You deposit $100, you're a new member. Guess what? You got $200 to play with this weekend. You can also check out BarkBox. Pat and I both have dogs. We love them. We do our puppy picks. Check those out on YouTube. Those are fantastic. But we love them. And we want to give them quality toys, quality treats, and toys that will last. Pat has a pit bull, and you know she's very strong. I have 2 Australian Shepherds, and they like ripping up those rope toys, and they never last. But with BarkBox, their toys are quality. They last long. They're still in our toy box here at the apartment, but they love them. They love the treats. So if you're interested in BarkBox, get your first month for free by using our link below in the description. Thank you, and we will see you next time.